The time is at hand.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
But I am telling you right now,
we need a great reset.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen.
Welcome to In Dark Places. My name is Junebug Fugit. My 7-month vacation in the city between the lakes is about to come to an end. Fun days are over. I'm going to be returning to my regularly scheduled program soon at my store. It's going to be open on December 6th. I go back to work November 27th. To kind of stock the place up and everything. And I don't want to go. I like the city between the lakes. It's a nice store. Nice people. Shout out to all my homies. It's kind of funny. I've been working for the company for 21 years now. And for 20 and a half years, I've hated my job. And at the other store where I've been working, I actually liked it. They gave me a reason to actually enjoy my job. Didn't think that was possible. And in a cruel twist of fate, it's an hour and 10 minutes away and I can't continue driving there. So now I will be hating my job again and being tormented and suffering and stuff. But maybe I'll go back one day, who knows. This is a story sent in by our friend Paul Chadwick. Thanks, Paul. There appear to be true UFOs. Expert skewers U.S. for not taking search more seriously by Sarah Burris. For years, the U.S. military, in conjunction with NASA, has been gathering information to write a report about unidentified anomalous phenomena. A phrase less recognizable than unidentified flying object. But as information is gathered, most of what is shared with the public is slim, as most becomes classified intelligence. Politico magazine published a report Thursday complaining that the American public is being kept in the dark. The only thing that is clear, it said, is that there is a team of national security experts and military personnel dedicated to finding the truth about what is being observed in the skies by the FAA and military planes. But there's always a stubborn percentage of UFO and UAP sightings that can't be dismissed as no phenomena or technology, or even national security threats like spy balloons, author Garrett Graff said. Depending on the exact data set and time span, the percentage of true unknowns ranges from around 5% to 20%. No one knows what those sightings actually are, but another way, there appears to be true UFOs, mysteries we can't solve. Given the U.S. spends nearly $1 trillion on national defense, Graff lamented that the U.S. government doesn't take these questions more seriously. In a hearing earlier this year, the military representatives explained that they only study UFOs that are observed by federal entities like the FAA or military pilots. They currently don't have the staffing to cross-check the sightings with military and Americans on the ground. At the same time, when an everyday American spots something odd in the sky, if a federal official doesn't observe, then it doesn't make the list. When it comes to a very different search, the one for extraterrestrial life, Graff wrote that the funds available are even smaller. He goes on to begin a list of what he thinks the blueprint should be to craft a legitimate search. His first demand is to remove the UFO program from the military intelligence, and he said that so many of the UFOs could have to do with unknown technology and relate more to national security than it does military. What is needed are people with a background in science and technology. Second, the program has to coordinate with other countries across the globe. The search isn't a U.S. one, it's one, and UFOs don't appear only over the U.S. It's time to share the data, and the related third is that it should be transparent, he argues. Fourth, we must build an effort that's data-based and instruments-based, said Graff. The data on the UFO sightings people see and report is almost worthless. It's too haphazard, incomplete, and unreplicable. This is one of the key messages of this summer's congressional hearing. A team of researchers and reporters could collaborate with experts to sync the sightings with public versus government observations. His final recommendation is that groups like SETI should be funded for the long term. And now here is the Nicolas Cage Meltdown of the Week.
His boss, who also happens to be dead, rolled up in a bedspread upstairs.
So that's why you've been here a year?
Yeah.
Joining me on the show this week is my good buddy and yours, ufologist, author, and all-around great guy, Kyle Lovern is here. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, good afternoon. I've been battling some kind of virus, science fiction or something. I think a lot of people have had it, but hopefully it's on its downside.
Yeah, crazy stuff. It's a lot of people sick right now.
Yeah, so if my voice is a little scratchy, I hope everybody understands.
Have you seen any good UFO reports here lately?
You know, I try to keep up with it. I haven't seen much lately. I did watch a show last night with Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee, who was real integral in having those hearings before Congress. And he's trying to keep things going. He wants to have another hearing, but, they keep putting him off, and they're saying that Congress don't have the classification to see some of the stuff that they're wanting to see, but he's still fighting a good battle. I really like him, and hopefully they'll have some more hearings and bring in some more expert witnesses that they had, like David Grush there a few months ago, and keep fighting a good battle to bring out the truth and let everybody know what the government's been hiding for all these years.
Yeah, it's been kind of quiet here lately. I haven't seen much of nothing happening.
No, other than that. And then I did see where the what is it, Arrow, I think they call it, their guy that was over that resigned. So I guess they'll have to find a new person in charge of that. But, it seems like a lot of people that have worked for that organization have left because they get frustrated, like Louis Elizondo and, David Grush, others, that because of them not wanting to disclose the information or let the public know. We have a right to know. Our tax money is what keeps those kinds of organizations going and those studies.
Yeah, they definitely need to be a little more open-lipped about it.
Yeah, they do. And then, of course, if the Congress starts cutting the funds, maybe they'll change their tune a little bit, because it's all about money, and they're getting millions of dollars for whatever. There needs to be accountability for see where some of that money's going. But it's you never know. It comes in peaks and valleys, so we may get hit with a lot of reports and stories here soon, and then it'll be after the first of the year before we hear much of anything going on.
It's always around this time of year I start thinking about the Mothman. It was had the anniversary of the first Mothman sighting here, I think, in, like last day or so. It was the first.
Yeah, it was around this time of year. I remember as a young kid seeing that in the paper and on the TV news. Piqued my interest, of course. I've always been interested in that kind of stuff, and it definitely, I found it interesting. Everybody was talking about it at school and everything, so even the teachers. So it definitely made the news, not only regionally but even nationally, as we know, and it's gone on. It's become a legend worldwide.
I've been watching a lot of stuff on Mothman here lately. I think I even remember seeing a recent sighting up around Chicago again. He tends to be hanging out up that way now.
And that's what I've heard in the past. There's been sightings there and other places. I don't know if it's the same thing that was seen in West Virginia near Point Pleasant at the TNT site years ago or not, but it's definitely a strange paranormal story that's lived on, and it's really, really interesting. But as we say, and as I always do, I always like to share stories from West Virginia and Appalachia, because we've had a lot of sightings and a lot of history with UFOs and the paranormal. And one I was just actually, when you just asked me to be on the show again, I was doing a little research on was the story of Woodrow Derenberger. I think you've talked about it and heard about it in the past and read about it, but I don't know how many of the listeners have. It's sort of it's pretty interesting, and it goes back all the way back to the 60s too. Around mid-60s, same time as the Mothman.
Yeah, it was just about a week or so before Mothman popped up, so it's a coincidence.
But it was, as the story goes, it was a chilly fall night in the country, and Derenberger was driving on the back roads of West Virginia on a November night, and it was in 1966, actually in November. And he was a sewing machine salesman, traveling salesman. He lived in Mineral Wells, West Virginia, which is outside of Parkersburg in that area. And of course, he claims that a spaceship landed right in the road and stopped his vehicle, and a guy got out and began conversing with him. He said the person, the alien, I guess it would be, identified himself as Indrid Cold. It's pretty interesting stuff. He had been on a trip to Marietta, Ohio, which is, right across the river there from West Virginia, and coming over. And he said he thought the lights were police officers. That's when he stopped, only to discover that the lights weren't on a car, and it looked like it was just some kind of aircraft. And it landed there, and he said it was the guy that came out was a perfectly normal-looking human being type. And he was interviewed on WTAP TV in Parkersburg at that time, and he was real straightforward with it, and a lot of people were interested in the story. So, of course, he made not only the local news there, but it started eventually made national news too.
It's a creepy story.
Yeah, he said the guy looked like he had a good tan, dark complected, that he talked to, and thick head of hair, big eyebrows. He was real descriptive on the account and the encounter with the person that landed on the spaceship. It's pretty interesting stuff. I don't know if it's true or people believe it, but it's an interesting one if you ever want to Google it and read more in depth about it. But we can talk a little more about it. I don't know how much you wanted to get into it, but he said, when he rolled down his window on the right side of his truck, and that's when the guy started talking to him, and that's who he identified as Cold. Which is an unusual name, Indrid Cold. That was the introduction that the guy gave to him. And he reported it to, the Parkersburg police, and they also, I think, talked to the Wood County Airport, which is near in Parkersburg there, and other people from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, of course, which really isn't that far from there, came to talk to him too, and especially after the interview was on TV, and made a lot of got a lot of interest, especially during that era. And as you said, it's around the same time as Mothman and other things going on. So it makes you wonder if it was just his imagination, or he wanted to get attention, or he really did have some kind of encounter.
I did a show a couple years ago now, I guess, about the crossroads and people making a deal with the devil and stuff like that from old folklore tales and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of interesting that Woodrow Derenberger's encounter was at the crossroad of Route 47 and Interstate 77.
Yeah, late at night. But you'd think other people would have come by and saw it, but that's never really been brought up as far as I'm concerned, I've heard. But if something landed in the road, there's got to be more traffic than just his car out there, even if it is late at night and on a chilly November night.
Yeah, somebody should have seen that.
You would think. But, yeah, the media attention started getting people coming to his house, and he started getting a lot more attention, and he supposedly kept in touch with this person even after that, Indrid Cold. And he ended up writing a book about the encounter. I think maybe, what was the guy, the writer up there that wrote about Mothman? And
John Keel.
John Keel. Maybe also contacted and talked to him, too, about it. So, but he stuck to his story even all the way until his death in 1990 at the age of 74. He still never backed down and never said anything different. So Derenberger's account has lingered, propelling Indrid Cold into the realm of the real myths and legends, as well as into tales of the creepy and unknown. After Derenberger spoke to John Keel, the author of the Mothman Prophecies, the legend of Indrid Cold was linked to Mothman, as we were just talking about, even so far as appearing in the 2002 Mothman Prophecies movie. So it definitely a little bit of a connection there.
I got to get his book. I keep putting it off. I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I don't have that one either. That would be one interesting for both of us to read, since we both are interested in that kind of subject, and especially stories that are in our native state of West Virginia and Appalachia.
Woodrow Derenberger's daughter had wrote a couple books, too, about it, I believe, after Woodrow died.
Yeah.
And she was talking recently, a year or so ago, that Indrid Cold had supposedly died in a plane crash or something weird. But then, not even 6 months ago, then she's died now.
Oh, has she? I hadn't heard that.
So it'd be interesting to see her books, too, and see what she added to the story.
Yeah, I guess her dad had shared certain things with her over the years.
It's interesting that Indrid Cold just kept repeatedly telling Woodrow Derenberger to not be afraid and stuff, and fear not and stuff like that, and it's common with the Bible talking about angels and stuff, so I thought that was kind of weird that maybe Indrid Cold was an angel or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good theory. I just think it's interesting that how West Virginia's had a lot of history with UFOs and paranormal, like this, Indrid Cold and Woodrow Derenberger and the Mothman Prophecies, and then, of course, the Braxton County monster, which is really a UFO story itself, back in the early 50s. And that was one of the early stories that made national attention also.
Yeah, that's a real interesting story, too, about the Braxton County monster.
Oh, yeah. Of course, the brothers and the other kids that were playing outside, and they saw what they thought was a meteor, if people aren't familiar with that. And that was up in near Flatwoods in Braxton County, West Virginia. And they went and got their mother, and she got a flashlight, and they went up the hill to investigate to see what it was. And they ended up seeing some kind of a mechanical-looking. To me, if the story holds up, it was more of maybe a probe that came down from another ship. And, it turned out there was a lot of UFO sightings around that same time, so might have been connected.
Yeah, it's funny how they termed it as being a monster.
Yeah, well, that was the media at the time. They didn't know what else to call it, and ended up being that, and thus dubbed the Braxton County Monster. That's, of course, they have a festival up there every year now.
Yeah, we got to head up there sometime.
Yeah, be good. I would like to do that.
The Flatwoods Monster Museum is in Sutton, West Virginia, and I found a recent UFO report in Sutton, West Virginia on the National UFO Reporting Center website. Thanks, Peter Davenport. This was on October 6th, 2023 at around 1 a.m. I was at my friend's house out in the middle of the woods away from main roads. I went outside to pee because they're in the process of building their house, and through the trees I noticed this bright light in the distance moving around and getting smaller and bigger. I watched it for a minute and got scared and tried to get everyone's attention. No one cared. So I went back outside and I started watching the sky again. And my friend was with me. I started seeing 2 to 6 lights like stars with a glow around them from the clouds coming through our atmosphere and back out. No other stars had a glow like that. They were moving around in one direction and then it would change and go another direction. There was some that would morph into each other, circle each other, and then become one. They would go away completely and then come back in different spots. There was one that would get extremely bright and would move around, and then I could see a cloud of light and it would disappear again. Then come back in a different spot and move around. I watched these in the sky for about 2 hours. I watched the night sky every night and have for about 3 years now. I've never seen anything like this. I know what Venus and Jupiter look like and where they're at. I know what Starlink looks like. I know what planes, satellites, and drones look like. These were none of these things. To me, from my perspective, on the ground, all I could see were lights, but they maneuvered around and looked like some sort of vehicle in the sky with a bright light on them to see. They could turn these lights off and on also. There was intelligent thought in the way that they maneuvered. I could tell these things were going in and out of our atmosphere extremely fast for as high up as it was, and they were looking at our ground here. I know this sounds insane, but I'm a fairly intelligent person, and I've been watching the stars for a long time, and I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But I got to meet Freddie May a few years ago, who was one of the actual boys that saw the craft or whatever it was, and you know, they never changed their story, and they continued to, over the years, and I mean, they were well to do. Him and his brother Edward and Freddie, you know, they went on to become successful. I think Freddie actually worked over in the Charleston area, you know, in those chemical factories, and maybe like an engineer or something. They were, you know, these just weren't backwoods kind of people that made up something. They went on to be successful. You know, his mother was a hairdresser, had her own business, Kathleen May.
The police said that the Braxton County monster was the product of mass hysteria. I've never hallucinated something that someone beside of me is also hallucinating. I don't know. It just don't make sense.
You know, the National Guard came out there after that and took samples and so forth. And you know, when they got up to where this thing was, they smelled something that said it really stunk. And there was actually a burned area where they encountered it, a burned tree and a fence post, and they actually got sick because the smell made them nausea. And once they got back off the hill, they ended up throwing up and everything. So it was definitely some physical characteristics to that story.
Yeah, that's always been one of my favorites. That's good stuff.
And of course, another West Virginia writer investigated that and wrote about it, Gray Barker, which he's another guy with West Virginia connections that, you know, he wrote for Fate magazine and wrote some other books. There's even he's got his own wing at the Clarksburg Library up there. It's another place I'd like to visit.
That'd be good.
A lot of his information, and looked into it, but they actually, I think they flew Catherine May and one of the boys, or Kathleen, to New York to appear on a national TV show and talk about it when all that happened. So it made, again, national news way back before UFOs really hit the mainstream.
I was doing a little skimming in Gray Barker's book. They knew too much about flying saucers. And I discovered that there was a song about the Flatwoods Monster written by Cindy Coy called The Phantom of Flatwoods. And I did a little digging, and I found a performance of it sung by Judith Davis at the Flatwoods Monster Museum. And here it is.
One evening in Flatwoods, her mother and her boys saw a great light and heard a great noise. They ran to the hill, didn't know what they feared. Was there in the dark that the phantom appeared? The phantom of Flatwoods, from the moon or from Mars. Maybe from God and not from the stars. Please tell us why you fly o'er our trees, the end of the world, for an omen of peace. The size of the phantom wasn't sight to behold. Green eyes and red face, so the story was told. It floated on air with fingers of flame, and it went with a hiss just as quick as it came. The phantom of Flatwoods, from the moon or from Mars. Maybe from God and not from the stars. Please tell us why you fly o'er trees, the end of the world, for an omen of peace. The people were frightened and started to pray. They were living in hopes of another new day. This story has no end, but goes on to say, this world will go on, for it's written that way. The phantom of Flatwoods, from the moon or from Mars. Maybe from God, not from the stars. Please tell us why you fly o'er our trees, the end of the world, for an omen of peace.
Kind of neat. Definitely a lot of stuff going on in West Virginia, just all through the years, and still continues.
Yeah, for sure. It's we definitely got an interesting history, and then, of course, the Silver Bridge collapse happened there in Point Pleasant, and some people said they saw Mothman before that happened, and that happened right before Christmas. That's why the bridge, they said, was so crowded, but they're saying it was structural damage, but that's been part of the lore of that story, which was tragic because a lot of people lost their lives.
The Mothman Prophecy movie kind of got it all twisted. It had the Mothman as being like Indra Cold, I guess. They never really showed the Mothman in the Mothman Prophecy movie.
Yeah, he got those weird phone calls at the hotel, and it was definitely more paranormal, I think, than UFO related, as far as the story that they depicted in that movie.
Woodrow Derenberger got visits from the Men in Black and stuff after his encounter, and I guess it probably freaked him out. He thought they were aliens too, with Indra Cold or something, maybe coming in the same days.
With the suits and the sunglasses, and there's supposedly a lot of Men in Black sightings up in that area. Mason County, Point Pleasant. After a lot of this stuff happened, I read a lot about the lady that originally reported the Mothman stories. The reporter, she had some strange encounters too. It was the Point Pleasant Register that the first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that Mary Hire.
Yeah, Mary. I'm glad you thought of it. I couldn't find it here. I knew it, but you know how it is. We've been under the weather. Memory's just not. Yeah, Mary Hire. She did really a lot of good writing on that, and continued to write about it. And she said, you know, I saw some other interviews with her where she was visited by some men in black or supposedly government people. You know, they wanted her to quit writing about it, but she didn't. She continued, which I can understand. Wish I'd love to have been able to talk with her before she passed away a few years ago, but she stayed right on that story.
I was in Walmart one night and thought I saw a man in black. It's probably, goodness, 10 or 12 years ago. I was over in the electronics looking at DVDs and stuff, and I saw this guy dressed up in a black suit and black fedora and sunglasses and everything. And he was looking at some DVDs like he was pretending like a distraction, but he was actually looking at some woman over in like one of the other aisles. Like he was, I don't know if he's just been a creeper or if he was following her around. She knew somehow UFO stuff or something, but he looked just like a man in black. It was kind of weird.
You know, another thing we were talking about locally, it's been about 11 years ago where we had that sighting here, and from Virgie, Kentucky, Pikeville over here to Williamson, that weird UFO daytime sighting in October about 11 years ago, which that anniversary just came up, and I actually got to see that one myself and wrote a story on it, and got interviewed by a couple of national radio stations when that happened. That made a lot of big news too.
They tried to debunk that one as being a balloon, and that just kills me because it's up in the atmosphere up there, and a balloon is going to be blowing around like crazy, and that thing was just sitting still.
Nah, no way. It was a balloon, and you can see it by some of the pictures, and it, you know, lots of people saw it. Hundreds of witnesses. You know, I got a lot of people contacting me that day, and I was still working at the paper then, and getting calls there, and getting messages on Facebook. You know, what is this thing? Yeah, did you see it? I'm just glad I got to see it.
Yeah, it's definitely good sighting.
Yeah.
Missed out on it.
Yeah, I tried to get a hold of you, if you remember. I've told you that. When I finally did, you couldn't see it. What I noticed, I always say this, I'll stick by it when I continue to watch it, was that I started seeing these jets, chemtrails going by it. And I just always wondered if those were military or whatever that come by and was checking it out. Because it soon disappeared after that, but it hovered up there for a long time before that. So it makes you wonder.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah, I think so. Because, you know, anytime there's a UFO, they're going to get out there and check it out.
This was way before the days of the Chinese spy balloon.
Yeah. That's a whole other topic. But, you know, it's that time of year you're getting a lot of meteor showers. You can see a lot more stars, it seems like this time of year, even though it's colder outside. It's tough to go out, but the skies are more clearer. You know, in this area we have a lot of fog or whatever, but it seems like in the winter if you get out to where there's not a lot of light pollution and look up, you can see a lot of stars and see the Milky Way and then a lot of the planets and different things, and so it's a good time to keep your eyes to the sky, as they say, day or night, but especially at night you can see a lot of things.
I was out there last night looking for a while, but it started getting too cold and I came back in. But it's a great view though. I finally got to see the Starlink I was telling you. It's been a while.
I finally see it. Yeah, I saw it here one night. It was really cool. I'd like to see it again, but I kept looking and I was about to give up, and then I actually saw it, and it went right over above the mountain. It was pretty cool. It was coming around here a lot for a while. I guess maybe it's gotten old. There was a lot of people taking pictures of it and posting on social media, but haven't seen anything lately.
It's always funny whenever it goes over, we get tons of reports on our Appalachian UFO Research Society page.
Yeah, I can see how that would be mistaken for a UFO, but it's definitely startling. I know a couple times people put pictures on there. Hey, what was this? And then I'll burst the bubble. So it's just a Starlink satellite, unfortunately. I wish it was a UFO, but it wasn't.
It's good that more people are looking up at the sky now, though.
Yeah.
So at least they're trying.
Yeah, for sure.
People just seem distracted in a daze, staring at their phones all day anymore. That's all you see.
People keep their face in a phone or laptop, and people are always so busy and all the other stuff going on around in the world, and sometimes I think they just think it's a distraction. But we'll always find it interesting. Just like everybody, we'll promote our Facebook page, Appalachian UFO Research Society, and if anybody has any sightings, report them on that Facebook page, and do it right away too, and try to. That way we can, it's not a week later, or if it's current, we can maybe look into it, see if there's what's going on, maybe do a little investigation.
Yeah, we get a lot of good stories on there. It's been a while. It's been kind of quiet for the last couple months, but
yeah, it comes and goes. But yeah, sometimes there's some good ones.
It's always good having you on.
Well, glad I felt like doing a little bit.
Now, since I won't be traveling as much, I'll have more time to be here at the house, and we can do some more shows.
Be back over here soon. I'm glad they'll be opening it up.
It's been painful. I'm going 3 hours a day just on the road.
I know, that's a lot of driving. And then,
thank you for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
All right, man.
And that's about all the big show for this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks, as always, Paul Chadwick, Kyle Lovern. Thanks, Jimmy Haunted, who's out on assignment. And thank you for listening. We'll be back here again next week. God bless.